Good morning. Good morning, Facebook, friends, family, everyone. Hang tight. Oh, I love having computer problems, said no one ever. Okay. Okay, good morning. Hi. It is Tuesday, December 5th. And my name is Jackie Lawrence. Good morning, Heather. And I'm back. Good morning, Chris. Cheers. I have pumpkin pie spice coffee. Yum. Hello, Teresa. Good morning, Gina. Okay, I'm going to show you how to avoid creasing in your under eye area, okay? So here's a few tips for you. So if you have mature skin or if you just have creasing issues, usually it's people who have fine lines and wrinkles. And I'm going to tell you right now that I feel like I'm a really good advocate for this because I don't know if I'm going to zoom in so you can see. I have fine lines that go from the under bed of my eye down here, okay? Good morning. Of course, they're a little softened right now because I already did tip 1. I should have done tip 1 on the live here, but I didn't. So let me tell you my routine and the suggestions I have for you if you're getting creasing in the under eye area. Number 1, I would use a serum that softens the fine lines. So there are serums out there, and I use Instant Lifting Serum, and I already posted the website on the comments, so you can go check it out under the skincare, but it's called Instant Lifting Serum. And every morning I put a little bit in my under eye area, and I can tell a difference right away. Okay, it totally softens the area. It softens and almost deadens a little bit the area so that my fine lines are not quite as harsh. I can't get rid of your wrinkles. I can't. I'm not a plastic surgeon. I wish I could get rid of your wrinkles for you. I'd be a gazillionaire. But I can soften what you have, diffuse the appearance of them, and I can also help prevent the onset of more wrinkles coming faster. So that's one tip right there. So if you have creasing in this area, it's usually because you have fine lines, right, or large pores. So you start with a serum to help soften and deaden that area so that it's smoother, okay? Then, of course, I put on a moisturizer, and the next thing I'm going to do is put on primer. So primer is also going to help because primer allows your makeup to sit on the surface of your face instead of seeping into your fine lines and pores, okay? So you want it to sit on the surface, kind of like on top of the primer, so that your face doesn't eat your makeup. So I'm just putting a little bit of primer and I'm focusing on the areas that I typically have a little bit more issues with, and that's going to be in the under eye area, which is probably the most common for most. And then I'm just moving the primer around to the rest of my face. Okay. Next, we're gonna put on some foundation. And I'm gonna use my little foundation brush. Okay, so I am using liquid to powder foundation. Okay, so it's a liquid that dries to a powder finish, which is another tip, okay, side tip, like 1A. Tip one was Instant Lifting Serum, okay, to diffuse the fine lines and wrinkles. Tip 2 is to put a primer on to help the makeup sit on the surface of your face instead of into your face. Tip 2A is going to be using a lightweight foundation. So I use the liquid foundation because it's lightweight, but it dries to a powder finish, so I also get full coverage, okay, and that will help. If you're using a heavy cream-based foundation, sometimes that's too much and can sit into the fine lines on your face. Okay, so I'm using my foundation brush. And what you're going to do is you are going to avoid the under eye area, okay? So if you are prone to getting creasing in the under eye area, you are going to not put foundation there. Yep, you are going to totally skip that area. So no foundation in the under eye area. Good morning, everyone tuning in. Good morning. so skipping that area. You can do your eye bed if you want, okay? So you can go right in here and here. But you want to avoid, I'm not putting any in the under eye area. Nope, none. You're gonna skip that area. Because here's the thing, the more product that you stick in that area, the heavier it gets, the more likely it is going to actually crease. Now, for whatever reason, the lighting, in the morning, I kind of look like an Oompa Loompa, don't I? I promise it's all gonna come together, I promise. Okay, and your concealer needs to go on after your foundation, okay? So it's another tip for you. If you have someone who has creasing in the fine lines, your foundation needs to go on, or your concealer goes on after your foundation. Okay. All right, just gotta make sure I get all areas of my face. Okay, so you can see I've left that area bare, right? So let's get to it. Concealer. So now I'm going to use concealer to highlight and brighten my under eye area, and I want to make sure it doesn't crease. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to find a concealer that is 1 to 3 shades lighter than your foundation. So I used chiffon and taffeta mixed together. I probably could have just used all of taffeta. But I'm going to use velour. Okay, so I'm using concealer that is 2 shades lighter than my foundation. But 1 to 3 shades is usually going to be the good rule of thumb. You don't want to go too light because it'll be too obvious. And if you go the same color, you'll get coverage, but it won't brighten. And we're looking to brighten and look more uplifted. So you take your concealer. A little goes a long way. Like this little tube is going to last you a year. Okay, a year. A good concealer will last you a long time. So I'm using like a teeny tiny bit, and that's probably too much, but oh well. I think my kids are up. Okay, then you're going to take a concealer brush and you're going to put it on your eyes. So you can do a few things. I have a habit of doing this. So just opening my eyes and putting it on because I'm kind of ironing out the fine lines, so I'm getting the whole eye area. You could just hold it down and do it because you kind of want to get in all the areas, okay? Even though you have primer on there, you still want to get in all the areas and kind of fill it in. I'm going to stick to my normal funny face way, okay? Like that. Oh, and my nose is starting to run already. Hang on. My nose is now a faucet, a little faucet. Like I'll be laying down in bed. If you've been watching my videos, I have like this stupid cold. And I have not gone to the store yet because I haven't made it a priority to. But it's now to the point where my nose is a faucet. I'm like laying in bed and it just starts pouring down. 'Tis the season. Okay, so I'm putting on my concealer. And I like to put it on with the brush so that my fingers don't touch my face. I try as often as I can to not touch my face with my fingers because you have, picking stuff up, bacteria is transferred from your fingers to your face, which causes all kinds of skin problems. Okay, so you can see I've got that on. The next step is to blend this, and you want it to blend well and just sit again on the surface of the face, but without creasing on the face. So you could use the brush. You could use many brushes actually, okay? But brushes sometimes just move the product around, but actually don't blend into or on the surface of your face and into the foundation you put on as well. So I'm gonna show you the #1 tip if you have massive creasing. Like if you're like looking at your face and you're like, man, my makeup's creasing already, get yourself a blending bud, okay? These guys are not expensive. You can find them at the grocery store now, I think, or at Target or TJ Maxx or on Amazon. And you want to wet it down. So you kind of take it underneath the sink, wet it down, and then you squeeze it out, okay? Because you need it to be damp. I use rose water because rose water has a lot of very yummy nutrition for my skin. So I just dampen mine down with rose water. Okay, so it needs to be damp. And then you're going to go in there and you're just going to go and pat it in. And you just pat, 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 pat. Dab, 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 dab. Which, by the way, when you do this dabbing motion, you actually can stimulate some blood flow, which actually will help plump up a little bit of that area, which also helps soften and diffuse those fine lines. Good morning, Teresa. How are you? So you can see it's blended. Blended, blended, blended. And I know that we're all looking for that, like that really soft, soft, soft appearance. And this is how you do it. Soft, smooth. Now you see that guy? See that little zip right there? I'm gonna cover that too. And that's gonna be covered with the color concealer that's the same as my foundation. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Okay, so now you can kind of see I've got my under eye concealer on, it's blended. There's another step, but we're gonna come back to it. We're gonna, because I want to show you how to, am I baking? No, I don't, unless you don't, if you have fine lines and mature skin, I don't recommend you bake. You must, baking's awesome if you have a very smooth surface underneath your eyes. If you don't, baking actually can make you look older. So no, Teresa, I'm not baking. Baking is typical for the youngins, 20-year-olds, they can bake. If you're over the age of 35 and you have wrinkles starting down here, not everyone does though, okay? I got some 40-year-old friends that have amazing skin and can bake. Okay, but for the most part, generically, I don't recommend it. So I can't read the rest of your message. It's just, how weird. Facebook isn't showing me everything that you're saying. It says, I do know that I tried this one day and I was like, oh my God, and I can't see the rest. That's so strange. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to put some eye primer on because we're going to actually use translucent powder to soften and diffuse those fine lines. And also, you tried to bake, okay? It didn't look good? So we're going to use translucent powder to also help set that area and to avoid their makeup creasing. It showed every wrinkle. Yeah, baking is not good. For typically if you have mature skin, it just isn't. So I'm putting an eye primer. You can do some of the things that they use for baking. Like I'm using translucent powder, which I love. Okay, setting powder, because I think it's awesome. In fact, it's really, really good for people who have mature skin because it does totally do the job of softening and diffusing fine lines and wrinkles. But you can't bake with it because it'll just seep into that area and make sure the skin look a little crepey. I didn't get the medicine, Teresa. I know I need to. I'm optimistic I'm on the downhill slope now though because my nose is just a faucet. It's running like crazy. Okay, so I put my eye primer on because I'm actually going to use the translucent setting powder on my entire eye area. So, I know. Setting powder. And then you're going to use a brush. I love this is translucent, which means it's colorless, but it's going to set the area. It's going to total soften your fine lines and set your concealer so that you don't have creasing. This stuff is like the magic age eraser as far as I'm concerned. It's a must-have in your makeup bag, okay? So you take your big puffy brush, you put it on there, and then you just dab it in the area. And you could do the whole eye bed. But look at that. Can you see that? It totally softens and sets my concealer, okay? Which will help avoid getting creasing in the under eye bed area. Setting, oh, I mean, look, it's so much softer. This is what you want, okay? This is what you want, a very soft, smooth surface, okay? In the under eye area. Ta-da! Now, okay, so Teresa, you'll have to watch from the beginning what I did, but I'll review. So let's review really quickly, and then I'm going to log off. Hang on. Oh, it's terrible. So here's your tips. Ready? For under eye, to avoid creasing in the under eye area. I would use a treatment serum, okay, in your under eye bed area. So treatment serum, I use instant lifting serum, which helps diffuse fine lines. So it's kind of like deadens the area a little bit, but it's not medical grade, so it's not like deadening your nerves. But it does, there is an ingredient, a natural ingredient in there that does kind of diffuse the area and softens the fine lines. It's instant, okay? I see it right away. It's not ticky, it's ticky. I was combining tacky and sticky together. It's not tacky or sticky, okay? And it's like a treatment serum. It's just a serum. It goes on. Put your moisturizer on. Then you're going to put primer on. So you want to put a primer on because primer, especially in this area, is going to allow your foundation to sit on, or your concealer to sit on the surface of your skin and not into the crevices of your skin, which is your wrinkles, okay? That was tip. So tip 1 was serum. Tip 2 is primer. Tip 3 is to use a lightweight foundation. So I use the liquid foundation, which is a liquid to powder foundation, dries to a powder finish, but it provides full coverage. But do not put it in the under eye area. Do not put your foundation in the under eye area. So when you put it all over your face, you put that on first before concealer. You leave this area alone because you don't want to pack. The more product you pack on here, the more chances you're going to get creasing, okay? So then tip number 4 is to use a concealer, and I would use one that's 1 to 3 shades lighter than your foundation. And I would put that on with a brush. So I just used a concealer brush, okay? And here's my concealer. And I just put it on. Just put it on. You can use your finger if you want to, okay? But just put it in the area that you want it. And then I use a blending bud, and you get it wet, and you pat that in. Pat that in. When you pat the skin like that, that's what it does is it actually creates blood flow, which when you bring blood flow to the surface, it kind of helps plump that area too, okay? So that's another tip to help diffuse those fine lines and avoid creasing. Thanks, Teresa. And then, of course, once that's all blended in, you're going to use a finishing powder, okay? Make sure you use the finishing setting powder because that is the magic age eraser. That actually sets the area so it doesn't move because if it moves, it's moving into the creases, okay? That sets the area, totally softens the look, which is what we're going for. So there you have it. That was the end of my tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. I love when you guys message me. So message me. You can comment below and ask the questions. If you're watching this on the replay, make sure that you give me a thumbs up with the translucent like CoverGirl work. Well, you know what? Try if you already have, Teresa, if you already have translucent powder, try it. Okay? Of course, I don't know. I don't use CoverGirl. I use Unique. I would say 95% of the makeup I use is Unique because it's good. It's department store quality and it lasts a really long time. That's the other thing I like about it is that I don't have to repurchase their stuff on a regular basis. But I am also an advocate of, I don't think you should have to replace everything. If you've got something that works, use it. So try it. If it doesn't work, then I would go out and get yourself some of the stuff because it's the best. Okay, so speaking of that, if you want to check this out, go to thicklonglashes.com. And you can see where All the products that I talked about, they're there. If you need help with color matching with concealer, just let me know. I will color match you perfectly. Yeah, and then just give me a thumbs up. Let me know if this was helpful to you. Feel free to share this with anyone. Shares are appreciated if anyone else that you know would appreciate getting a tutorial on how to avoid creasing in your under eye area. Other than that, everyone have an amazing Tuesday.